Welcome back, everyone, to the Enemies of the Fire podcast. And on this week's episode, we're going to go through the U.S.'s Copa America preliminary roster. We're going to talk all things Reynoso, raccoons, and ridiculousness. And then we're going to round it out. Instead of talking about a terrible soccer game in which the Chicago Fire lost, if not, and not only just one, too, we would have to talk about 2 losses. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to do a tier list to find the top 10 coaches in Chicago Fire club history. Gentlemen, this is James. This is DPG. I am FC Neo Tokyo. What is up? What's going on? Is everybody excited? There's nothing to complain about with this roster, right?
We're not
James?
talking about the Chicago Fire, right?
No. We're talking about the U.S.
We're talking about the U.S. training camp roster, of course. The USMNT national team being called into Washington, D.C. If we take a little bit deeper look here, goalkeepers, Ethan Horvath, Sean Johnson, Matt Turner are going to be rounding out the goalkeeper group. I mean, that seems like a strong group.
You know, it does. I mean, 2 things jump out at me is Zach Steffen still being kept out, which is fine, in my opinion, because he's still playing poorly. And Sean Johnson, I really thought he was going to be like right now, like the number 1. He was going to be like Tim Howard. I really did.
Really?
But yeah, I really thought when he was drafted by the Fire in the first couple seasons, I was like, I can't wait until World Cup 2026 and 2022. Sean Johnson's going to be the starting men's national team keeper. It's going to be great. But alas,
I mean,
I
if
don't
there's
know.
injured,
How do you guys? I mean, who's the only other person we could throw in here, right? Calendar?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, Horvath seems to just like play well whenever called upon. Sean Johnson's competent, and Matt Turner, I'm a little nervous about. I don't know. This used to be our lockdown number 1 position, like ever, for years, for decades.
I want to see Chris Brady get a shot.
I mean, well, the Olympics is happening at the same time, too. I think that's why there's a notable absence in the defenders. So, yeah, for real. I think Brady's going to get a shot at the Olympics. Oh, no. Wait, didn't they?
You mean age out?
No, they didn't put him or Guti on the preliminary roster, did they? So he can't go to the Olympics.
No.
I don't know. I'm a little confused by that.
Might be a reserve.
Either way, I don't know, man. I'm worried about Turner. I don't know how you guys feel. This was not a good year for him.
I mean, we got Ethan Horvath, so. And in worst case scenario, hey, you got the milkman. He's gonna show up all the 2 other guys.
Honestly, like
Ethan Horvath.
You got enough quality here that they'll be okay. Yeah, nobody here is world beating, but on their day, Matt Turner's put in a world beating day. Ethan Horvath has put in a world beating day. Sean Johnson's put in a world beating day in MLS level.
You are correct.
So,
you are
like,
not wrong.
on their day, these guys could shut down anybody. So I mean, like, they're as good as anybody in the world. They might not be the best, but that is certainly a quality set of goalkeepers.
When you put it that way, I'm not mad about it, but it is a far cry from Tim Howard, Brad Friedel, and Casey Keller.
Far cry, which those guys had a dominance about them. They were desired by some of the bigger clubs. I mean, to the point where Manchester United was. Tim Howard was there for a minute, but defenders. Let's move over to the defenders. Cameron Carter Vickers, Christopher Lund Hansen, so hot right now. Mark McKenzie, Shaq Moore, Tim Ream, Chris Richards. That's the Canadian way of saying it, Chris Richards, Anthony Jedi Robinson, Miles Robinson, and Joe Scally. Scallywag.
How did you get Anthony right, but not Scally?
It's fishing.
Scally.
Gentlemen, what's the temperature? How do you guys feel about this?
We got a decent back line.
I feel better about the back line than I do about the. This has been like the case though for U.S. teams lately, and over the past. If we look back over the past 8 to 12 years, what do we always feel good about? When we look at the back line, we're like, well, at least there's guys in the back line we trust. Like, I feel like that has been a running theme for the U.S. men's national team, and it does not change here. Cameron Carter-Vickers, Mark McKenzie, Tim Ream, Chris Richards. I mean, Anthony Robinson. You got heads here that you trust.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Let's look at this realistically. Like, Richards can play right back or center back, right? And you got McKenzie, Vickers, Robinson, and Richards all as center. Oh, and Ream, all as center backs possibilities, right?
Yeah.
So who would you, I mean, for me, I've always been a huge Mark McKenzie supporter, but I understand he's had his struggles. I don't want bottles and cans thrown at me, but I would start Vickers and Robinson in the center. I mean, I don't know. Ream's still an extremely talented player. Father Time beats all of us eventually, man.
I was thinking that too. I'm like, you're gonna throw Ream. He's gonna be facing some of the best attackers in South America.
It's gonna be a little tough.
It's gonna be tight.
But I'm fine with it. I know.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the big elephant in the room, because okay, I'll say this before going to this. Anthony Robinson, in my opinion, Jedi is low key one of the top 3 players on the team. I can't tell you how many times an attack starts from Anthony Robinson. Like, almost every time you see a good attack for the U.S., that's where it's coming from. And
Really quick. How many MLS guys are in this roster?
3.
4.
Sean John.
We got Shaq Moore.
Miles
Robinson. We got Timothy Tillman, but he'll get cut. We got I mean, no shade to Tim.
No,
he's building himself a career, man. I'm happy for him.
Yeah, we got 4 MLS guys. Am I missing someone?
I can't find a 4th one, actually.
No, he's
dumb.
Sean Johnson.
Oh, Sean Johnson. That's the one I'm missing. Yeah. Okay. I mean, Shaq Moore was the worst player on the U.S. at the World Cup, right? Like, is that enough to tell the kid to go out to pasture? Because that's what the big deal now is, right? Is replacing Dest. Like, how are you guys replacing Dest? I'm damn sure not turning to Shaq, but I will say I'd rather play Scally or a defender or even Chris Richards over, say, Timothy Weah. I don't know.
I don't see Tim Weah. Oh, Tim Weah is here. I mean, do you think that is a way for him to work his way back into the roster and work? Maybe he goes with that because of the transition he's been going through with AC Milan, right?
So this has been my argument with this. This has been my argument regarding, when players are not having a great season in a club and somehow they still get called up. And I think this was kind of like a big issue that a lot of people had mentioned during the Bruce Arena era, where he will call up guys that are not doing great, try to get them motivated to do good, but he will do it on a national team level, right?
Well, that's when we had more friendlies and more games, and also the players needed – the MLS wasn't enough of a stage to sell a player. They needed more to be able to be sold. Now, we don't need to do that, but I'll interrupt you for a split second. Like, can you think of 3 other people that are a better winger that are U.S. born than Tim Weah? I cannot.
I mean, if we're gonna go that route, and if fine, maybe Tim Weah is having a bad season, and maybe this is his way of kind of like refocusing. This might be his coming out party, so to speak. So it could happen. He could turn things around for the U.S. men's national team, and he could hit the ground running when the next season, when next year starts. So, I you know what? I guess in that sense, yes, take him along. But I wouldn't agree with it. No, not since you put it that way. I mean, I would normally not agree with it. If you mentioned, some guy, like a Costa from the Fire. If you were to tell me he's a backup on a bench,
I'd be okay with Acosta in this midfield. If we're gonna slide over to the midfield,
let's go to the midfield. Let's go to the midfield.
I would be okay with
big lineup talk.
I would be okay with Acosta being a backup in the midfielder, not knowing that he's going to be a starter, but that he's at least just a reserve guy. But Tyler Adams, Johnny Cardoso, Luca De La Torre, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, Gio Reyna, Malik Tillman, Timmy Tillman. Who the fuck is Timmy Tillman?
Are you serious? That's Malik's brother. He's killing it at LAFC.
Yeah,
last 2 seasons.
He's like, who the fuck is Timmy Tillman?
It's Malik Tillman's brother.
Oh, that's great.
That's the guy that is going to get cut.
Yeah, if we have to get down to 26 guys, Timothy Tillman is not making this roster.
Is he
now? But
if he's not that good, then why is he here?
I mean, he's going to be. He's like 21 years old. He's like 20 years old or something. You know what I mean? Like it's develop. You got to develop guys too, because let's bring up, like, you just read off all those names, and what was in my head is you guys talking about Acosta, and I'm with you. Like, yeah, he's of level, but then look at these names, with the exception of Timmy, which you always need to bring some kids. Where is he fitting in? A Cardoza 1v1, as far as, like, if you're picking a team, I'd probably at this point pick Cardoza over him. De La Torre maybe, but even then you have certain things with De La Torre, like he's basically Pulisic's bodyguard. You know what I mean? So, like, he'll, on the field. So it's like, where would Acosta might not have a home in this team anymore. Look at this midfield.
So, my point is proven. The Fires did ruin him.
I mean, they might have, but
they got Tyler Adams and Yunus Musa. They don't really need Acosta.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I mean, with Weston McKennie, I mean, like, where are you going to fit him in this roster? That's wild. That's the definition of a guy who hasn't done anything wrong to lose his spot, but has just lost his spot through age.
Yep.
It's funny, man. You look at the U.S. and we have people like Beasley and Donovan who played in so many World Cups because we just didn't have the kind of depth that we do now. You look at you look at, like, in Italy, or maybe they're a bad example since they missed the last 2 World Cups, but like a Brazil, you're like, oh, X, Y, and Z is an amazing player, and he only played at 1 World Cup because, you know what I mean? He was, his age, so that kind of stuff happens all the time. Any surprises here for you guys? Anybody you're not happy with? I mean, Timothy Tillman surprised the shit out of James.
Yeah. I mean, if James doesn't know him, that's saying something.
Well, Christopher Lund Hansen, were we actually talking about this guy before too, where he's kind of like they're bringing him along in a similar way with Timmy Tillman?
He's the only one that could get me to be a little bit frustrated because he has played so poorly when given the opportunity.
In a U.S. jersey?
Correct. In all 3 of those games, he was at fault for at least a goal in each of them, on top of not playing well on top of that. So, yeah, like, he's just had a rough run of it. I'd almost rather see him not get called until he's so good that the coach gets heat for not calling him. Does that make sense?
He plays in Serie B, he's trying to, rise, get up to, how we were talking about this last time, how, sometimes you need guys to play in Serie B, and you were giving me crap about it.
I know. I mean, I think they were in Serie A when he signed, weren't they? I don't know. That's neither here nor there.
Well, speaking of neither here nor there, we got a couple of forwards who are there. Brendan Aronson, Florin Balogun, Ricardo Pepi, Christian Pulisic, Josh Sargent, Tim Weah, and Haji Wright.
4 forwards, huh? That to me, this lineup is to me, I'm seeing something that's scaring the bejesus out of me, but we'll get there in a moment. Any surprises here? Anybody you guys don't want to see? I mean,
we got heavy hitters, man.
We do. Sargent's dealing with he just came back from a long injury. Same thing with not Haji, I guess, but I don't know, man. Like, there might not be a lot of spots to play all these guys, and for the problem is Balogun has kind of really struggled this past season. And that really opened the door for Ricardo Pepi, who looked all of up for it. Josh Sargent, who is any chance he's played really well despite being injured all the time. And Haji Wright had a pretty solid year, man. And I'm not mad at Haji Wright. I'm not the kind of guy who's anti Haji Wright.
Would you start him alongside Pulisic?
No, not at all. No, I would not. And we're creeping into the biggest problem I have with all of this right now.
Oh my God, here we go.
I'm about to lose my.
You know what's messed up? We never talked about Gio Reyna.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's another one. Like, look at him. He. That's the thing with some of these players. Sometimes they just have so much talent and they're just in a bad situation.
Yeah.
I mean, God, look, let's put it this way. Bastian Schweinsteiger hadn't even taken the winner's medal off of his neck from the 2014 World Cup, and he wasn't even in the 18 at Manchester United. Sometimes guys are just in bad situations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which, by the way, kind of led to a worse situation when you signed with a Fire.
Yeah, but we're not. That's not the point. That was not the point of this conversation. But so overall, overall looking at all of this, you know what this screams, don't you?
What?
3-5-2, which I want to run my head into a wall. Timothy Weah's development has been stalled by being forced to play as a wingback as opposed to either a back or a winger. And I feel like we already struggle enough to score goals despite having high octane scoring power. I hate the 3-5-2. I feel like you pull so many players backward that it just creates no goals. It's the thing that drives me crazy the most. And I know Serginho Dest and Anthony Robinson in our 4-3-3 are the engines of the offense, like I just got done saying.
You're talking about Timmy Weah, but he's also been struggling to score goals. So it doesn't matter where you put him. Right back, right wing back. I don't know about that.
Keep in mind that this group
facilitated so many pools to goals. On top of, do not disrespect Timothy. I scored in the World Cup. Weah.
Hold on. So we look at this group. You got Bolivia, you got Uruguay, you got Panama. Right off the bat, Uruguay is probably your toughest opponent.
Forget the group. These guys are about to play Colombia and Brazil. Did you know this?
Yeah, I know this. But you know what? They can go ahead and Berhalter could go and experiment against Colombia and Brazil. I don't care. The point is that he better stop experimenting when the group stages hit.
No, it's going to be a 3-5-2, and we're going to lose all three group stage matches 1-0. It's going to be awful.
You're going to lose against Panama?
I mean, we've done it before.
Yeah. You're going to lose against Bolivia?
Probably not. I do like our chances against Bolivia. Now, I'm terrified because I feel like Triple G just is going to take all this gold and turn it into shit.
The game against Uruguay, that will certainly be a real test for the Americans.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
there you go.
They're high flying right now.
Didn't Uruguay beat Argentina and Buenos Aires?
And Brazil.
Oh, yeah, whoa.
Yeah, Uruguay is like the for real right now.
Well, are we talking about they're playing like the 1930 Uruguay team that won the World Cup, huh?
They're doing something.
They're playing like the 1952 World Cup team that beat Brazil in the final.
So, James, you're so oddly quiet. How do you feel about this roster? How do you feel about this team?
I feel pretty good. I feel better than I felt the last.
Yeah, the last couple rounds of call-ups. Yeah,
8 years where it felt like there was a weakness. Well, now it feels like there are strengths.
My thing is I wonder how this roster would have looked if we had someone else managing this team. And I know we beat the horse to death already, but you know,
I
it
don't
just
know
kind of leaves me
anymore.
kind of.
What horse? Frank Klopas to USMNT?
No.
Oh
I
God,
don't
no.
know. Greg Berhalter might be the best U.S. men's national coach available right now because Jesse Marsh is no longer available.
So, how would you guys line this team up? I would go 4-4-3 and just replace Dest straight up
You
with another
4-4-2?
guy playing right back.
Well, I thought Dest
Huh?
was
4-4-2?
injured, right?
No, 4-3-3. My bad.
4-3-3. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I would just straight up replace Dest because I think the whole reason we're going 3-5-2 is to replace Dest by pulling Weah further back as a wing back. Then you have Anthony as a wing back. Then you got the 3 center backs, which would make sense why we brought 5. And then you're going to throw Pulisic up top with a Balogun, I think. I think that's what we're going to look at. And that's not what I would do. I would go the standard 4-3-3. I would not risk Tyler Adams right away. I'd probably play I'd probably play Musa McKinney with Gio Reyna in front of him. I would definitely have Pulisic on the left. On the right, I mean, Aronson's hasn't played all that great. You got to go Tim Weah. And then I'd start Balogun just because I do think his talent is just head and shoulders above the other guys, despite them having better seasons. I mean, that's what I would do. I don't know. Am I stupid?
I mean, the team that beat Mexico, that's Pulisic, that's Haji Wright, it's Tim Weah, it's McKennie, it's Tyler Adams, Gio Reyna, who didn't get called back in.
But who's
and
Mexico?
Scored a goal.
But who's Mexico?
Well, Mexico was nobody. Gio Reyna's in this lineup.
I thought Reyna didn't get called up.
Yeah, he did. You went right past him.
He patched things out with Gregg Berhalter like a year ago.
I did. Okay, he's right above Malik Tillman. I'm sorry, I missed that.
The Tillman brothers just have got you.
I know. They got him in his head.
They got him shook.
Gio, Pulisic, Tyler. I mean, they got Haji right now pegged. Tim Weah, McKennie, Anthony Robinson, of course, Tim Ream, Chris Richards, Serginho Dest. No Dest, though. Matt Turner. No Dest. Yunus Musa, often used. Brendan Aronson, often used. Johnny Cardosa, he wants to try him out. Malik Tillman getting some looks. Florin Balogun, they promised him minutes.
I mean, Balogun has played well in his very few games for the U.S. He just had a rough go in Monaco. It's a real rough go of it this past year.
Monaco is a tough place.
Yeah, when you got PSG and who's the other one?
There is no other one.
That's it. It's PSG and Monaco.
Who won it last year?
Oh, the Timothy Weah's old team. They fell off. God, what? Lens or no? Who was it? God, thanks DPG. Now you're gonna make me sound stupid. Oh man, who did he? Oh God. Nice? No.
PSG won in 2022. PSG won in 2023. PSG won in 2021. LOSC.
Yes, Lille. Lille was when Tim Weah won it.
Won in 2020-21. And then before that is a whole bunch of PSG.
A bunch of PSG, yeah. Well, I mean, when you gotta face PSG,
Monaco won it in 2016.
Holy shit! Was that the no? Because that was after 2014. I was gonna say, was that the James Rodriguez year?
I mean, that might be.
I don't remember who was on that Monaco team. But so I don't know. I guess. That's right. That's when he was he's still a kid.
Was Mbappe as a 16, 17-year-old there?
Yep. So yeah, I don't know. I'm happy with this lineup. I have concerns about how it's going to be coached.
It was Mbappe. Wow.
Yeah, you have concerns. We all have concerns, man. And the thing is that the clock is ticking. We're getting closer to 2026, and if Greg can't get it together, it's gonna be a really tight schedule to put someone new.
So back in the day when I was watching this team around the mid 2000s, I desperately wanted them to win all the time just to prove that we could actually like have people show up to a stadium and people watch it on TV and actually like win a game. But now I'm kind of like, as long as we perform at 2026, if we get skunked at Copa America this year, who cares? Like I'm just so ready for 2026. 2022, we could have done so much more. I feel like a lot of people.
Well, they
talked
missed the
of,
previous Olympics, so it kind of hampered what they could do. Or not
Well, but really,
not the
like-
Olympics. I'm sorry, the previous World Cup.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I guess that's the biggest question of them all, right? It did missing that World Cup get us to where we have all this talent now, or did we lose something not going?
I honestly think that was the best thing that happened to the U.S. men's national team.
Way.
Yeah.
No way.
Hold on.
Look what happened to the kids with the
Hold on.
school.
Before you go crazy, think about it. If we would have made that World Cup, Russia 2018, we probably would have been still stuck in that Bruce Arena cycle, and some of these younger guys might have not get noticed. Because Bruce Arena loved getting his guys. He loved getting his DeMarcus Beasleys. He loved getting all these aging stars.
I mean, the question becomes, because look at his teams when he coaches the Revolution, or even back in the Galaxy days when he'd put Emmanuel Boateng or Jossie Zardes or whoever out there. He's not afraid to play the kids, but we were in a precarious situation in qualifying when he took over. So it was almost like, I don't care that like we have all this talent. I need guys that know how to do the job. It was it's like, okay, I'm going to train my team to do this, but until we do, I'm going to hire the guys to do the first round. You know what I mean? Like, so who knows?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But honestly, it took the U.S. men's national team to miss a World Cup to actually kind of get a cycle going and force growth. Because it did force growth.
They should have done it without having to do that.
I would have liked that.
I'm gonna tell you this. If you're worried about the U.S. men's national team, or you're still upset the U.S. men's national team missed the World Cup, you look at the situation now, around the area. Mexico, they're on shaky legs. Like,
if they didn't have the World Cup gift wrapped in this next one, you're right.
They might not make it. You're right. They're in a doldrum. Don't forget that. Do not forget, do not forget that that Graham Zusi made a goal to get Mexico into the World Cup. Had he not scored that goal, and it was in the last 10 minutes of that game, Mexico would not have gone to the 2014 World Cup.
Exactly, but see,
and they did not afford us the same courtesy 4 years later.
That's fine. That's fine. Because you know what? What's going to happen? Mexico's on shaky legs. They'll get past the 2026 World Cup. When 2030 comes around. And especially when you have teams like Panama that have grown, Jamaica that have gotten better. That adds to the competition. Like, those teams could literally beat Mexico. Look, Mexico is not the scary giant that they were in the 90s.
No.
This is a everybody in the region has evolved. And right now Mexico is lacking behind, obviously miles behind USA.
I don't think that'll last long though. I don't think that'll last long.
There's a lot of controversy behind that. I'll just leave it at that,
All right.
Because
we'll just leave it at that. So before we sneak out of here, the very last thing I want to say is the only negative I took personally, well, not the only, but the only lasting negative of missing 26 or 18 is how Josie and Michael Bradley got Bill Buckner or Steve Bartman, or however you'd like to say it. That's the only thing I don't like, because those two were legit. And like, yes, Josie, like, let's put it this way. Lukaku was everything I had hoped Josie Altidore would ever be, but wasn't, unfortunately. But Michael Bradley was the truth for a long time, for real. And like, to see him get like the Bill Buckner or the Steve Bartman treatment kind of sucks. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
And when we come back, we got a lot of fun stuff planned for you. We'll be back.